Hi, I'm Dustin Shane, an urban planner with the Nashville Planning Department. I'm excited to introduce you to some of the zoning code updates we prepared as part of the ongoing housing and infrastructure study. I'm going to try to keep the background to a minimum in this presentation, so if you're new to the housing and infrastructure study, please visit our website to get caught up. In this presentation, I'll explain what the code allows now regarding R and RS districts and DADUs, what changes we're proposing, and what effects those changes will have. Here's a refresher on the questions Metro government is tasked with answering as part of the housing and infrastructure study. 1. Do current regulations and code provisions negatively affect housing supply, affordability, and equity? 2. What are the costs to deliver the housing products that will address Nashville's existing and long-term affordability needs? 3. Can our current infrastructure, transportation, water, etc., support the anticipated growth over the next 10 years? And 4, does Metro need additional funding to ensure planned infrastructure improvements are built? The impetus for the Housing and Infrastructure Study, or H&I, also comes from the Planning Department's Unified Housing Strategy, or UHS. The UHS is a recently published report taking a very comprehensive look at Nashville's housing needs, including programs and opportunities to address those needs. The UHS talks about the need to review land use and zoning as one part of a broader strategy. So what are we proposing with this update? Well, to begin with, Nashville's zoning code currently allows unexpectedly large structures in neighborhoods with little flexibility in the number of units. While this study proposes new zoning districts to unlock the opportunity for middle housing types, small changes could help to address the unexpected outcomes from current standards. The proposed changes will balance small adjustments to standards to improve design quality and encourage more compatibility with existing neighborhood context and modest opportunities for additional diverse housing types. On the screen, you'll see the order in which we'll go through the proposed changes. We'll talk about updates to height regulations in R and RS zones, updates to DADU bulk standards, updates to where DADUs are allowed, and updates to where and when two-family uses are allowed. But first, let me introduce a few terms that might be unfamiliar. RRS zoning means one and two family residential, R, and single family residential, RS, zoning districts. DADU means a detached accessory dwelling unit. UZO means the urban zoning overlay, or roughly the pre-metro boundaries of the city of Nashville, which is more urban in form. The map to the right shows the extent of the UZO. It's a zoning tool that controls things like bulk, setbacks, and height. USD means the Urban Services District, an area within Davidson County where residents pay a higher property tax rate for a greater level of services, including trash collection, recycling, and other urban amenities. The USD is more about service provision than zoning regulation, but certain zoning tools can still be tied to it, as we'll see with some of the proposed changes. So first, we'll talk about updates to height standards in RRS districts. Currently, single and two-family dwellings are allowed up to 3 stories in height, and in some cases, that doesn't include up to 7 feet of exposed basement. That can result in some very tall structures. To address this, we're proposing to clarify how half stories are measured and to add context-appropriate height limits in most R and RS districts, 2.5 stories max, with clear measurements to eave and roof lines. Note too that with these parameters, a roof ridgeline will be able to attain more height than a parapet, which is a low wall along the edge of a roof, and so this will promote pitched roofs rather than flat roofs. Why is this necessary? 1, to make height rules easier to understand and enforce, including eliminating loopholes for exposed basements, and also to ensure that the height of neighborhood infill is compatible with what's already there. The more rural and large lot zoning districts will still be permitted 3 stories, since taller structures are less imposing on larger lots. Next, we'll look at DADUs. Currently, there are strict limits on DADU heights based on lot size that restrict many properties within the urban neighborhoods to overly small DADUs. What we're proposing is to standardize DADU heights so that if you're permitted to have a DADU, it can be 2 stories. Why this change? This will streamline the regulations around DADUs and make them more functional and useful for more property owners. And importantly, they'll still be required to be smaller in size and subordinate to the primary structure, ensuring compatibility. Some more on DADUs. Currently, they're only allowed in DADU overlays and historic overlays, and on lots with alley access. Also, there are footprint limitations on DADUs based on lot size that overly restrict their usefulness and size for housing. With this update, we're proposing that DADUs be allowed across the USD and RRS districts, and that out in the General Services District, council members and property owners will have the option to adopt a DADU overlay to permit them in certain areas. Size limitations also need to be updated and streamlined such that DADUs are better suited for filling the need for affordable housing. Importantly, however, DADUs will still only be allowed with single-family homes. A property zoned for two-family uses can either have two principal residential uses or a single-family home with a DADU, but not both. Why these changes? Well, this opens up DADUs to owners citywide, and this will allow homeowners more flexibility in using their property to provide rental-friendly housing that they control. The increases in size to DADUs also help them fill the need for smaller, more affordable housing types. And the design and height standards, which require a DADU to be subordinate to and stylistically similar to the principal structure, are not going away. Finally, rules about two-family uses. Currently, two-family uses are only allowed if the R-zoned lot legally existed before 1984 and is being subdivided into no more than 3 lots, or two-family uses are limited to 25% of lots in later subdivisions with 4 or more lots if specified on a plat. We're proposing simplifying these rules. Two-family uses will be allowed by right on any R-zone lot that meets minimum size requirements. If you're zoned for two-family uses and your lot meets the minimum lot size requirement, you'll be permitted to have a two-family use. Why this change? It's an easy way to streamline and simplify regulations while also making more and affordable housing possible. This is our timeline for reviewing and adoption of these updates. We'll have public review through the end of September with a public hearing at Planning Commission on September 25th. The Planning Commission's recommendation to Council will take place on October 23rd with a public hearing at Council to follow on November 4th. That concludes this presentation about proposed changes to the zoning code concerning R and RS districts and DADUs. Notice on the screen office hours and a sign-up link both for virtual and in person. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. Thank you for your time.